party like this, you're actually pretty safe from your typical Jason or Michael Myers type.
Safe, but there's a lake. Hormones, beer.
But we're together. You know, Slasher Dude isn't the Terminator, shooting his way through 30 cops in a police precinct. No. He's a wolf, waiting for one of us to wander off alone.
That right there is my favorite character of MTV Scream, explaining to his fellow partygoers and the audience why they'd be safe from a slasher killer at a party like that. Well, like he says, from at least Jason and Michael. And this scene right here takes place halfway through the first episode, which meant halfway through the first episode I knew what the writers knew what they were doing, but it wasn't always like that. Back in 2015, when I first watched the show, I thought for a Scream story the kills were lackluster when it came to creativity or just looking brutal for the most part. The characters were all horrible people who kind of deserved to die for the crimes they were committing, except for a small handful who were innocent, and I thought the overall reveal of who the killer was ended up flat. Upon rewatching the first season twice in 1 week though, I can truly say without a doubt that most of my opinions were wrong, and that the show is genuinely entertaining despite me keeping some of the gripes I had with the show back in 2015. There was a lot more I liked my second and third time around compared to my first time that the naive 15-year-old me just couldn't see. That doesn't mean there isn't parts of the story or characters I want to have wiped completely off the script, but the pros definitely outweigh the cons for the show. So why do so many people not like this show? Do people need a second look like I did to see how fun this show can be, or am I just as naive as I was in 2015? To find out, I think the easiest place to start is the plot. MTV does with Scream what Disney did with Star Wars or Paramount did with Terminator, which is take an old story while changing and tweaking a few aspects to create a story that is new to a first-time audience of the series, but similar enough to fan favorites of the series that hooks in old viewers as well. The plot of this new Scream series is pretty close to the original, giving fans of the first not much to complain about other than lack of creativity. A female lead who is the nice girl next door that only lives with one parent due to a traumatizing and brutal past event, mysteriously now has this new violent stalker that's not only going after her, but her friends as a way to torture her for her parents' past, turning our sweet high school lead to a strong female protagonist. The difference between MTV's Scream and the original is that the killer has taken up the costume and mask of Brandon James, a boy with a disfigured face that ended up murdering 5 students and attacking 2 more who survived, being Emma's mom, aka Daisy, Brandon James' only love, and Emma's dad, who leaves the family when Emma is young, which is apparent throughout the show, even right in the first episode, but that doesn't mean the mask is great, and when you put it up next to the original, it's no contest. Though Noah makes it pretty obvious in the first episode that yes, even though there is the overarching plot for a slasher, there's still little subplots sprinkled all around with our characters to flesh them out more, like a love triangle between our main character, Emma, and her boyfriends Kieran and Will, or more importantly, an overarching subplot of a blackmailing scandal in the town of Lakewood.
Well, you know, you gotta remember that the whodunit may not be as important in our story.
So it's more of a why done it?
No. I'm saying you need to forget it's a horror story, that someone might die at every turn. You see, you have to care if the smoking hot lit teacher seems a little too interested in his female students. You have to care if the team wins the big game. You have to care if the smart, pretty girl forgives the dumb jock.
Sounds like Friday Night Lights.
Exactly. You root for them, you love them, so when they are brutally murdered, it hurts.
I like the plot and the side plots for the show too. I think a lot of boring written characters are able to bring out a little bit more charm and flair when they're put into better written situations. Characters like Will or Riley come to mind, and if they took out little moments they had with other side characters in favor of giving Emma a few extra minutes of screen time, would have surely killed any interest we could have had in them, so it's nice to give the side characters a chance to be their own too. Though I'm interested in the mystery involving all of our juicy plot points for the show, one of my main issues with MTV Scream is how they reveal information. Emma's our main character, she's the one we follow throughout the show and the character we're rooting for, but we find out so much information without her. We as an audience can learn something about a plot point or character way before Emma does, but then the show still acts like it's a shocking revelation when Emma finds out later. Not all the time, but more or less, secrets and mysteries unfolding are better when the audience and the character learn something at the same time so you're both feeling the same reaction. You'd think the writers would know this too, since they could just look at the original film to see. A lot of the time this issue stems from Emma and her mom too. There are smaller moments like when Noah's explaining a tale of Brandon James and Daisy pretty early on in the first episode while showing clips of Emma's mom, showing us as the audience that she's Daisy. It's small, yes, but this happens pretty early on in episode 1, and Emma doesn't find out that her mom is Daisy until halfway through episode 3, but it's still played for a shock.
Statement says that Brendan James confronted his girlfriend, and that's what started all of this.
Wait, my mom was his girlfriend. He calls her Daisy. Oh my God. Brandon James is obsessed with my mom.
I know later on in episode 1, a package delivered for Daisy at Emma's house with a pig's heart inside of it, but if you took out the reveal that the mom is Daisy and played off as the killer sending a pig's heart to Emma, it will subvert the expectations of not just the audience, but Emma as well in episode 3 when she finds out that her mom is Daisy. Again, small moment, and that's probably just me nitpicking. But then there's moments like when Rachel, Audrey's girlfriend, was murdered by Ghostface at the start of episode 2, that made it seem like a suicide due to Rachel's depression. At first, Emma thinks her involvement in a leaked wildfire video of Rachel and Audrey making out at the start of episode 1 led Rachel down to the path of suicide, having Emma blame herself for the death of that girl, but not even 20 minutes later they ruin it. Right before a basketball game at Lakewood High in episode 2, we get a scene of Emma's mom telling the sheriff she found evidence of foul play while conducting Rachel's autopsy, which Emma's mom feels relieved that her daughter didn't have a role in her death. But why do we get this scene?
Hey. What? What is it?
Emma confessed that she could have stopped that video that went viral. She blames herself for this. But now Rachel didn't commit suicide. I mean, not that that excuses what she did.
I get it. Take the time you need.
It might seem like me nitpicking and complaining over this small scene, but there's really no purpose for it. We know Emma didn't kill Rachel, due to us watching her be murdered by Ghostface, so this isn't new news to the audience. And you might say, well Hunter, this scene exists as a way for the sheriff to know he has to open a murder investigation on Rachel Murray. And yes, that would be the case if they didn't rehash this entire conversation in the start of the next episode. The only reason I could see this scene having any point is because the show can't have characters like Emma's mom or Sheriff Hudson thinking our main character Emma could have done something bad, but because she's our main character, the writers are going to make sure she deals with mistakes and consequences so she can grow, without others thinking any less of her for those mistakes and consequences. Even the next time they rehash this conversation for no reason, Emma just happens to be there to listen in and realize that she had nothing to do with Rachel's death, so just like the rest of the cast, she doesn't have to think she's done anything wrong. Luckily, this is the only scene of the show that really does this. Enough about silly plot points though, because you can only care about situations going on in front of you if you care about the people in them, and for the show, there's quite a few characters to care about. So let's talk about these characters we're supposed to root and care for. MTV does add new characters to the show that don't feel like mirrored or inspired versions of characters from the 1996 film, like Kieran, a new boy who just moved into town to live with his father, the sheriff, because his mother and stepfather passed away in a car accident. But for the most part, Scream fans can probably match a lot of the characters as mirrored versions of others from previous films, which I don't find to be a bad nor a good thing. That means Emma is Sydney, Will is Billy, Jake is Stu, Noah is Jamie, Brooke is Tatum, Nina is Cassie, and Piper is Gail. There are plenty of great characters in the show, starting off with our main character, Emma. Her transformation throughout Scream is one of the most entertaining parts of the series. Her growth is natural with the events of the show. Emma is the young, sweet girl next door, and when Ghostface first makes it clear that he is here for her, she doesn't want to fight him. She hangs up in fear and runs away from the situation, but once he kills Riley in the third episode, that fear turns to brave determination and she wants justice brought in for her friend, so she starts to investigate on her own so she can take the killer down herself. Willa Fitzgerald, I hope I'm saying her name right, the actress playing Emma, does a great job in my opinion. Willa said she had a lot of fun in this role. In her interview with Teen Vogue, she talked about how getting covered in blood was one of the best parts of the show, and her acting shows she really loved it. She was able to convey a lot of emotions, not with just how she delivers her lines, but the way she articulates her body as well. Now, I wouldn't call her a scream queen for the genre, but more a cry queen, which is a good thing. This girl is the best on-screen crier in the cast. There's at least 4 times they have Emma break down the show, which is realistic, because no 17-year-old girl would be able to handle all this trauma with a straight face the entire time. It was genuine when Emma went from laughing and reminiscing over a memory of Riley to crying and mourning over her death. Emma goes through a lot too, with watching at least 3 people die, finds another friend dead on top of being chased or attacked by a killer multiple times. She never feels safe, but she's fun to watch when she's not in danger too, with the love triangle between her current boyfriend Will, and the new boy in town Kieran. Though we can say it's a love triangle, Emma really does drop Will after Kieran gets there, for good reasons too. We find out that Will only asked Emma out because of a bet that Nina made. Will hooked up with Nina during a 1-month break between him and Emma, and from the looks of it knew that Nina was recording their first time making love together as part of her blackmailing operation. They do get back together for a second in episode 7 after Will heroically saves her, but they're practically broken up by the first episode. She's even making out with Kieran like half an hour after telling Will to screw himself in the first episode.
I should get back to my friends.
Do you even like them?
What? I mean, are you supposed to like your friends in high school?
I hope so. I could use one.
By the end of the first season though, Emma is no longer the innocent girl she once was. By the last episode of the season, she's not only threatening to find and stop the killer, she's also no longer scared of Ghostface anymore. Unlike Sydney though, it doesn't feel like these events will cause Emma to live the rest of her life in a more isolated or untrustworthy way. In the original, only Sydney and Jamie survived the events of Stu's party, but there's a group of survivors in the MTV show all waiting to support each other through this trauma. Then you have characters like Brooke and Jake who feel like inspired characters of Tatum and Stu, but with a few tweaks of their own. Jake is much more of an asshole and more aggressive than Stu when it comes to being around his friends and classmates while still keeping the jock frat boy like demeanor. Then there's Brooke, who is more secretive and selfish than Tatum, but shares her mindset of being bashful and popular. Go figure. These two are horrible people at first, and I know there are 2 reasons that helped shape my original mindset that none of these characters were good people, that they all should have been dead by the end of the first season. My first time around at least though. But luckily, not for just the audience, but for the actors too, these characters go through changes that make them better people. Even though I love Emma and her Sidney Prescott-like transformation throughout the season, Jake's transformation is much more interesting in my opinion because it takes a lot more time and one brutal event to make it happen in the first place. See, in the first episode, we find out that Jake and Will were helping, or at least knew of a blackmailing operation Nina and Tyler, 2 people who were murdered in the opening scene, pulled off where they would hack into people's computers and cameras, then use the footage that they got against the people. So when they find out that Nina was murdered and Tyler is the main suspect, Jake's actually pretty happy because now he can take control of the operation. The show also plays it out at first like Will is in more charge of Jake, like the dynamic between Billy and Stu, but in reality it seems like Jake is the mastermind between the two, even with his goofball personality. Jake is even the one who says to Will that they should use the video Nina had against Brooke's father to blackmail him for enough money for Will to go to college. Jake seems to know how to gain access to the cameras as well as know when they're online for the blackmailing operation, on top of being the one who handles the deals between the mayor when it comes to him and Will. But as the season continues, he gets to be a better person. At first, Jake only shows glimpses of who he could be around episode 5 or 6 when it comes to helping catch the killer or his bond with Brooke being formed. But Jake's transformation to a good person really starts in episode 8, after he's been stabbed in the chest by Ghostface at the abandoned bowling alley during episode 7 while helping the group find a kidnapped Will. This almost fatal attack from the killer helps Jake turn a new leaf and makes him want to know that if he dies, he wants to die being a better man. Take these 2 scenes as an example, one from episode 2 and one from episode 8. Here in episode 2 we have Jake threatening Noah's life because Jake thinks that Noah is the one who spray painted his truck, which is true, but only because Noah was getting revenge for Jake stripping him to his boxers and throwing him in the middle of the lake, but Noah lies and says it wasn't him at the time. Then we skip to episode 8, where Noah goes to visit Jake in the hospital while he's recovering from his attack at the bowling alley. Noah believes Jake is unconscious at this point, so he takes the time to admit that, yeah, it was him that spray painted his truck. And he's not angry or aggressive because he realizes how pointless it is. That's not to say he still won't be immature at time, but Jake now knows they can't live his life the way he was. Unlike Brooke, where her actions indirectly hurt the ones around her, Jake knew his actions were hurting others and he just didn't care. But we see how that changes, especially in the last episode when he deletes all of Nina's files, truly ending her blackmailing operation. Now let's talk about the last of the 3 characters who transform throughout the show, Brooke. Just like Emma, Brooke starts to change after episode 3 when Riley is murdered. Brooke blames herself for Riley's death due to her falling to temptation when it comes to Mr. Branson, leaving Riley behind and alone at the police station, where Ghostface would eventually trick Riley to come outside and kill her off. Though Emma and Brooke both start to change around this time, they are for different reasons. Emma changes after Riley's death because she realizes that she can't play defensive and avoid her family's past, while also trying to keep everybody safe, so she decides to attack her problems head on. Brooke starts to change though because she realizes that her selfish decisions have consequences that hurt her and her friends like it did with Riley. Even when Riley was around, she wasn't all that good of a friend, mocking her choice in guys when she starts to date Noah, our lovable film geek.
Still haven't heard from Noah. Everything was going great on the football field. Then he raced off like the microbe was back.
He's clearly afraid to make a move. And you're too gorge for these romantic Special Olympics.
Don't be mean.
Not mean, brutally honest.
Brooke's character actually has a lot to do, more than Tatum, because not only is she involved in the story, but her dad, the mayor of Lakewood, plays a crucial part with the blackmailing subplot, also dealing with the disappearance of Brooke's mom. Brooke is actually one of my favorite characters to watch because even though we know she is an Emma, she got tougher throughout the season just like her, and more importantly, kinder. She becomes a better friend to Emma, tries to end things with her lover Mr. Branson, looks for advice from her mom who is nowhere to be found, and when she can't get it from her dad, she turns to Jake for comfort, where they bond a really nice friendship. And it's in this comfort she seeks from Jake that helps her find out what happened to her mom. Jake, being the one blackmailing her dad, shows her a video of her dad moving a wrapped up body. Though when he mentions how he got the video, he tells her that it's Will blackmailing her dad. This was Jake before he got stabbed though.
In the light of full disclosure, I gotta get something off my chest. I don't know how or why, but Tyler and Nina had a video of your dad doing things he should not have been doing. Now, I have not seen this video, but I know they were blackmailing him with it.
How do you know that?
After they died, Will kept the video, and he picked up where they left off. Now, I tried to talk him out of it, but he's blackmailing your dad again.
And with the evidence given to her, she even goes to the police and gets her dad arrested for the disappearance of her mom before he breaks and tells her that the body he moved wasn't her mother's, but her mother's drug dealer who had OD'd and died while the mom and the dealer were doing drugs in the house. So to protect her and more his image, he sent her to rehab without telling anybody and just saying that she's on vacation. Sure, she's lied to at first by Jake, who says he has nothing to do with the blackmailing scheme, like I stated earlier on, but she finds out his involvement soon after. Brooke doesn't forgive Jake at first either, which I wouldn't too. It's only after he's been stabbed and almost killed by Ghostface that she starts to warm back up to him. Brooke goes through quite a bit and feels betrayed by almost everybody she loves, from her parents to her friends, but it's by these experiences that she is able to grow and come out a stronger woman. Though Brooke and Jake were a great pair to see on screen and their growth was amazing to watch, not all characters needed to change as extreme as they did to be likable or fun to see on screen. So let's get another pair out of the way with Audrey and Noah, or should I say the dynamic duo Bi-Curious and the Virgin.
Hey, we could team up. Bi-Curious and the Virgin.
It's the world's saddest crime-fighting duo.
Come on, Virgin. We're gonna be late.
And these two right here have the best on-screen chemistry together, which is needed since they're on-screen a lot and serve a great purpose to the story. Hell, even Audrey's lesbian relationship being leaked online with the girl from a Catholic school is the opening to the show. Noah's my favorite character in the whole series. He's the character I can connect with, and I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, then the one you connect with as well. Noah is a kid genius. He is gifted in knowing how to handle electronics and coding, as well as being educated in more subjects than just science or literature, debating topics with classmates a lot. But because of this, he is socially awkward and relies on most of his human insights from movies, books, and video games when he's not with his friend Audrey, leading him to be an amazing and loyal friend to Audrey though, either in him sticking up for her around other people when she's feeling insecure, or comforting his best friend while she mourns over the horrible events that have been happening throughout the show. Which is why when Riley starts to flirt with Noah, he practically doesn't know how to respond, or more or less will always say the worst and cringy things by accident.
Cool. But if you want to stargaze, maybe you should go outside. Lie down in the grass. Look up.
That's another way to go.
If you want to try it sometime.
Oh, so like a you and me thing. That sounds...
I'll see you in class.
Okay. I'll see you in class. I have zero game.
but they're actually a pretty cute couple together, and I would have loved to see him do a lot more with the relationship, since it was really the only genuine one I felt.
Dramatic, maybe. Romantic, not so much.
Do you think our scene should be romantic?
I did, but you never called, so.
Riley, I wanted to, like a lot. And, you know, if I had, I would have said I want to hang out and be romantic a lot.
Wow, is that Shakespeare?
Yeah, you know it. I think it's from his play A Midsummer Night's Hangout.
Okay, game on. But you better impress me.
See how smooth Noah was with that Shakespeare line and the way he looks at her at the end? I find John Carnot to be one of the strongest actors on the show, and he can really shine through these scenes. Though Noah's relationship with Riley doesn't last long, you can tell that this would have been Noah's first love if she wasn't taken away from him by the killer in episode 3. On top of having a great relationship story going on, Noah's also our MTV's Jamie in our movie geek. He does a great job at it too. Noah gives these great monologues throughout the show and is perfect at dissecting the slasher formula for a new audience and for veterans of the genre, as well as giving some of the best references in the show.
Oh, this place is huge. Noah, take the back porch. Scream if you see anything.
That won't be hard.
Here, take this.
Okay. But in observation of this loaded moment, I am not in favor of splitting up, nor am I 3 days from retiring. I will not be right back.
You have the scene I showed you before, which is great, but he has funnier moments like in episode 10 when they're on their way to face Ghostface in the final showdown, and he starts breaking down the climax of a slasher, only to come to realize that his type of character never makes it to the end.
Okay. Well, if this is the final showdown, the killer's gonna try and take out every single one of your friends, one by one, until you're the only one that's left. Because you're the survivor girl, which makes me the know-it-all sidekick. Oh crap, I'm gonna die.
You're not going to die.
Though, like Emma says, Noah doesn't die and survives the events a lot less hurt than Jamie ever did in the Scream films. Though just because he goes mostly untouched throughout the first season doesn't mean he doesn't have to go through his share of pain, with dealing with Riley's death once they start dating, or being chased by not just the killer but the cops too. Audrey is another character I really like. She's another example of an LGBT character in a show who is a full fleshed out person instead of just a checkmark in the diversity list, until you see her in season 3 of 13 Reasons Why. Even though her lesbian relationship is the first big thing to happen in the show and leads us to the subplot of Nina and her blackmailing videos, it's not all Audrey does. Her girlfriend is killed in just the second episode, leaving her mourning until she has to watch her best friend Noah fall into the same depression she did when he watches his girlfriend Riley die. Audrey is also the one that starts the investigation with Emma when Audrey tells her to text the number of the killer that he had been using.
What if you wrote him back?
What?
If this psycho did kill Rachel, I want to know the reason why. He DM'd you, right?
Yeah.
He opened a line. Let's direct message his ass back.
Though Audrey, Noah, and Emma are the 3 main teens trying to hunt down Ghostface, that doesn't mean she's all played for innocence. Throughout the show, Sheriff Hudson is trying to track down the killer in his town, with Audrey being one of the main suspects next to Jake and Kieran. Sure, her being a closeted lesbian isn't her whole personality, but it sure is motive to hurt somebody like Nina Patterson for pulling you out of said closet in such a humiliating way in front of the whole world, like a leaked video online. And even though her friends like Noah and Emma trust her for the most part that she says that she never hurt Nina, there is definitely a dark side to Audrey when she snaps. Now I'm going to get down to some of the more boring characters that aren't written all that well or just not given much due throughout the season. Even characters like Riley, who I enjoyed watching, don't warrant me talking about them on their own because all she did was date Noah and die, and I'll be getting into her death later. Characters like Will and Kieran are pretty boring themselves, with the most interesting thing to happen to them is their love triangle with Emma outside of a couple of moments, which isn't saying much, but they also survive long enough to play their parts in their subplots. And I find Will's actor to be one of the weakest actors in the cast. I don't think he's given much to work with, but it's not like he ever made his mark in any scene he was in. I will say I do like how they set him up as the Billy of the group. Even in the first episode, he's the one trying to be discreet about him and Jake's operation with Nina, but it doesn't seem like he wants or be competent enough to pull something like this off, since he's just a lower class farm boy at heart. Will being in this lower class family, though, is what causes Will to resort to blackmailing Brooke's dad, the mayor, with Jake so he can go to college and get out of Lakewood. Then they try to give him some motivation and make it seem like what he was doing was justified to it, but when you put the blackmailing next to Will recording him and Emma having sex, and trying to manipulate her to not be with Kieran after he slept with Nina, just makes him an unlikable character all around. The writers try to redeem Will for all the bad things he pulled throughout the season in his last episodes, Betrayed and In the Trenches, where he turns to Piper, the podcast journalist, to help him go behind Jake's back to give Brooke's dad the money he stole from him, as well as the video of him and the dead body. This way, Will can think he is free from the guilt of blackmailing and stealing from the mayor, as well as thinking he has done something good after all the bad he's committed by giving Piper a blackmailing story.
Hey, Stretch. Decide to take me up on my offer?
Not yet. But I do want to make things right. If you help me, I'll give you a story you never saw coming.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Do you care to give me a headline?
I'd rather you hear it directly from the source. Come on.
Luckily, the show doesn't treat anything Will does as acts of good afterwards, and doesn't even reward his character, even having Ghostface attack and kidnap him minutes after he gives the money and video back to the mayor. Particularly, I thought Will and Emma's relationship was born and played out throughout the earlier episodes, when we were seeing if they were going to get back together or not after finding out that Will cheated on Emma in the first episode with Nina. But I did enjoy in the 7th episode when Emma goes to the old bowling alley to save Will after he's been kidnapped and hurt bad by Ghostface. Not just because I enjoy seeing Emma help and cry over her hurt boyfriend, but because Will pulls off his only and final acts of heroism in the bowling alley. After Emma finds out that he's alive, she leaves him alone in a room with Noah and Brooke, and even though Will is injured, Will tries to go after her, but once Ghostface shows up, he uses all of his strength holding back to let Noah and Brooke run.
Jake needs our help.
Or he's luring us out just like he did Emma.
We can't wait. I'll go out and find them, and you two need to find a way out, okay?
You can barely stand, but hey, if you want to make it easier for him, just be my guest.
Brooke, go! No, go!
Then a few minutes later, Will attacks Ghostface himself when the killer goes after Emma. Though Will is using the rest of his strength protecting these characters, I don't think they save him from his crimes earlier in the season. Kieran is not one of those underused characters in the first season, and luckily he survives for the second season so they can develop him more. Though unlike Will, Kieran is an actual character for the most part. Kieran just got to Lakewood to live with his dad, the sheriff, after his mother and stepfather were killed in a car accident a few weeks prior, and Kieran shows signs of intelligence in the first episode while debating with kids in Mr. Branson's class, as well as at Brooke's party, and he shows that he knows how to take care of himself while showing off to Emma what a good shot he is. But Kieran just has nothing to do, like, at all. Kieran doesn't know anybody at the start of the show, so he's in at the police station, episode 3, when the gang is trying to turn Tyler in at the police when they think he's the killer. In episode 4, Kieran isn't with Emma, Audrey, or Noah at the hospital looking for clues after Riley's death in the previous episode. Actually, to come to think of it, he isn't in episode 3 at all. He was out of Lakewood dealing with insurance stuff in his hometown from the accident. Even in the best episode of the first season, episode 7, he doesn't show up at the abandoned bowling alley until after the cops bust through the door and Ghostface is gone. Kieran is just never there for the fun stuff, and I was shocked to even see him walking around with the gang in the climax of episode 10. Kieran is given somewhat to do, but all relates and revolves around him being the son of Sheriff Hudson. Kieran does get files for Emma surrounding the Daisy and the Brandon James event, but is only able to access those files because of his dad. In episode 6, he's able to help Emma conquer her fears and teach her how to shoot a gun, but he only has access to that gun because of his dad. Even just like how I mentioned he came busty in the bowling alley after the cops in episode 7, he only knows where to go from a police scanner he took from his dad. It's just the character doesn't have much to do to begin with, and what he is given to do is because of his privileges he gets from being a cop's son. The only other thing he is given to do is Emma, and I mean that literally.
What if he is? What if he's in the trees watching us right now? Maybe he's already crept in the back of my truck to ambush us later. All I know is right now, I'm holding you. He's not.
Emma and Kieran actually do show some signs of chemistry together. They actually give some fun banter as well as show a lot of affection towards each other. I can't tell if these actors ever got together after the show was done shooting, but they definitely enjoyed their scenes together on the show. Overall, those were his best scenes, though, which is a shame, because him making out with a character shouldn't be his peak for the first season.
I hope so. I could use one.
Do you think this is wrong? You know, your dad, my mom, the Brady Bunch weirdness of all.
Though even with the love triangle, it's not enough to get us to care about Will and Kieran. The only other interesting thing about Kieran is shown to us in episode 9, when it's revealed he was with Nina, the second victim, the night before she died, though everybody but Audrey brushes this off by episode 10. Now let's move on to the final character I'll be talking about, Piper. Piper herself isn't all that fascinating. She's just a podcast journalist who covers ongoing murder investigations, but Piper Shaw is supposed to be our Gale Weathers. Unlike Courtney Cox, though, she's born with no fight to her story and no wit to her dialogue. Remember when Gale was prying Sydney so much about her mother that Sydney punched her?
So, how's the book? Well, it'll be out later this year. Oh, I'll look for it. I'll send you a copy. Oh!
Jeez. Now look at how much Piper fights for information on Emma's family.
Your dad's Kevin Duvall? The sole survivor of the Brandon James attack?
I actually don't talk about that.
Sorry. I'm just trying to see if there's any connection between what happened then and what's happening now. No agenda, just the truth. I also have a very serious caffeine addiction, so you will be seeing a lot of me.
Okay, well, respect my privacy and I will keep you caffeinated.
Fair enough.
I know they're meant to be different characters, and Piper isn't meant to be as aggressive and cold-hearted as Gale, but when you give us such a downgraded version, it's hard not to miss the old. The only reason I bring up Piper Shaw is because she plays a pretty decent-sized role in the story. Piper gets herself involved in the blackmailing plot against the mayor from Will, while also getting involved in the search for Ghostface with Emma afterwards, even going to Brooke's party in the last episode to warn them that the killer is there when Emma can't.
I can't reach Brooke. A deputy went to her party, but I haven't heard anything.
I'll go check, okay? Don't worry.
Thank you. Yeah, be careful.
You too.
But by the time she starts doing anything interesting, it's halfway through the season, and for me a little too late. So when Emma and Noah finally get to Brooke's party at the end of the 10th episode, and Piper has been killed off screen, you don't feel anything, but we'll be getting into her death soon enough. MTV Scream has 8 kills to offer in the first season, and really only 2 of them are main characters. For the most part, I'm going to have to say I'm disappointed in the overall kills for the season. There's only 4 kills really worth talking about, and that's not to say that the cat and mouse aspect for some of these kills wasn't entertaining, but for the most part they feel pretty tame and weren't very fun to watch. Hell, we can't even watch 2 of the kills because they're done off screen, like when they kill off everybody's favorite character, Wet Pool Boy.
Hey, hold up. Where do you think you're going?
I gotta hit the head.
You're soaking wet. Hit the head in the pool house.
Whatever, bitch.
Jake! Are you in there?
Oh my God.
And when they kill characters off, it's usually poorly written side characters like Rachel or Nina. And with that, let's start off with the worst culprit on this list, Nina Patterson's death. Unfortunately, the first two kills we have in the show are from Nina and her boy toy Tyler. Tyler is one of MTV's off-screen kills, and as your first death, especially in the reboot of a series, is always a bad way to start your body count. I love the remake Friday the 13th, but it has the same fault with the same first killing actually being off-screen.
Oh, I love you. And you. And you. I even love you. Oh my God. Look at this shit. What the fuck? What the fuck? What is this? No! 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 No!
Nina Patterson is our Casey Baker, not just in the fact that she's our opening kill, but that she's the most recognizable face in the cast when the show was aired, being from Shake It Up. The writers spend 7 minutes trying to do their own little version of the opening kill from the first movie, but they mess it up so bad, and I don't know how they thought this was effective. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea of them starting the show with doing a mirrored version of the original, but there are reasons why the original works so well. Casey Baker was just a teenage girl home alone watching a movie. You as the audience were scared of her, you didn't want her to die. Nina Patterson, though, on the other hand, was committing crimes even before the Ghostface killer was. Nina started the blackmailing operation with Tyler in Lakewood, as well as leaking the video of Audrey and her girlfriend 2 hours prior to their death. The setup for her death is even brutal compared to Casey's, and not in the good way. Instead of the killer calling Nina and asking her what her favorite horror movie is, he decides to text her. Are you kidding me? What's more effective? This?
Why? You want to ask me out on a date?
Maybe. Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
I want to know who I'm talking to.
That's not what you said.
What do you think I said? What? Hello?
Look, I gotta go.
Wait, I thought we were gonna go out.
Nah, I don't think so.
Don't hang up on me.
Listen, asshole!
No, you listen, you little bitch. You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand? Yeah.
Is this some kind of joke?
More of a game, really. Can you handle that? Blondie.
Or this.
Oh, you want to come in the hot tub with me, don't you, sweet?
Tyler, you are skating on restraining order lake.
Tyler, I swear to God, if you were in my house, you were dead. Sage is a trained attack Pomeranian, and she will gut you on command.
Then get over here and do something about it.
Hearing Ghostface flirt with Casey before making his creepy comment about seeing her is what turns the scene playful to suspenseful in the original. With Nina though, he just texts her from Tyler's phone, so she isn't even scared herself until she sees Tyler's disembodied head fly into the hot tub. And if Nina's not feeling any tension or fear, how are we supposed to as the audience? Her death is even anticlimactic, with only a slash to the back and a slice to the neck, leaving me to feel very underwhelmed about the scene. Call me desensitized, but Drew Barrymore's death was violent and gory and one of the most effective openings in a horror film ever. I wouldn't even compare these two openings too much either if the writers and directors didn't purposely make it a terrible recreation to the first. The only part I can say I truly loved about MTV's opening is that it killed off the worst character in any Scream story for me. Talk about my least favorite kill in the whole Scream series, I think it's fitting to move on to my favorite kill in MTV's first season with Riley's death. In episode 3, the gang decides to go to the police station to help the cops turn Tyler in, thinking he is the one behind all the mayhem in Lakewood, despite Riley's wishes to go against their friend. And after the plan doesn't work, the gang starts to go home, leaving only Emma, Riley, and Brooke at the station, where Brooke promptly leaves to go to a hotel room set up by Ghostface, thinking it's Mr. Branson texting her, and Emma leaves when she's picked up by her mom, leaving only Riley at the station now. But while Emma is in the car with her mom, she gets a text by Ghostface asking if he should go after the good girl or the bad girl, implying Riley or Brooke. At first, Emma doesn't want to play this game, but she's forced to pick, and Emma actually displays some quick thinking on her part by calling Riley to make sure she's still at the police station before telling Ghostface to go after her, thinking she'll be safe inside the station. Which, to Emma's advantage, was true, so Ghostface tricked Riley into coming outside the station by pretending to be Tyler and contacting her for help. This is where Riley is then attacked and stabbed behind the police station. She does try to escape by climbing up the ladder to the roof, but not before being attacked a few more times. At least she doesn't die alone. Noah calls her by FaceTiming her, and as she bleeds out, she's allowed to say her goodbyes to at least one person she cared about.
Hey, Riley, where are you? Just look around. Just tell me what you can see.
I can see our stars.
No, Riley. Hey, no. Hey, you have to stay with me, okay? Please. Please. Riley! Riley!
Now, I love this kill more for the setup than the execution. Ghostface is only going after Riley and Brooke because Emma didn't want to face Ghostface herself, aka her family's past, so she feels responsible not just for who she has to choose, but for getting them in that situation in the first place. And like I said, Emma does choose wisely. Emma was clever with making sure that Riley was in a building filled with police officers, and it was Riley's dumb decision that actually gets her killed. And I do have a problem with that dumb decision. They set up Riley as the person in the group who cares the most about Tyler, not even wanting to turn him into the police, but I don't know why.
I promise, you cannot trust him.
I have no idea who's screwing with you, but I know Tyler. He's afraid and we need to hear him out.
Riley, we need to go to the police.
So he can get shot like Brandon James?
It's not even like Riley has affectionate feelings for Tyler, since Tyler is the one that has a fling with Nina at the start of the show, and Riley is clearly with her boy Noah, so it's not the case either. It's just Riley, a character we don't know that well, making a bad decision for Tyler, a character we don't know at all, on no basis for her character to do something like that, especially when she's portrayed as the intelligent one in the popular group. The show even kind of plays her death as a joke at one point, which I found kind of disrespectful to her character. As she bleeds out on the top of the police station roof, she pounds on the skylight to get somebody's attention, but the janitor who's working has headphones on and can't hear her because of his song. Though the kill has some issues that bog it down just a little bit, I think the kill has some wit to it with the setup while being fun to watch, which is all you can ask for a Scream kill. And that's how it is for most of the kills in this show. The setup is always a lot better than the execution. Will's step to his death at the end of episode 7 is so entertaining because it looks like he was going to die at the end of episode 6 when he returns the money in the video to the mayor with Piper, only for Will and Piper to be attacked by Ghostface, where Will is then kidnapped, tortured, and used as bait to get the rest of the gang to the abandoned bowling alley where Brandon James used to work. And after everybody fights for their lives, all the managed to escape, including an injured Will, which was really shocking to me. I didn't expect them to keep this character alive past the bowling alley because of all the wrong he had done throughout the season. It seemed like the show was going to be rewarding this character for coming clean about the blackmailing by not only having him survive the killer's attack, leaving Will to be the first victim to accomplish that, but also having Emma tell Kieran that she needs to take a break from their relationship to focus on her and Will's. Though this positive reinforcement towards this terrible person doesn't last long, when only 6 minutes later in the show after we watch Will survive the events of the bowling alley, we watch Emma head to Will's house to check up on him, and when she gets there, she gets a call by Ghostface telling her he's got Will tied up and she needs to move fast and she's going to save him.
What do we have to eat on our second date?
No, I can't recall. But this is going to be a date to remember.
No.
Yes. Game's still on, and we're in the bonus round.
I played by your rules. I did everything that you wanted. Where is he?
I wanted you to have a little pride. Instead, you forgave his lies, just like Daisy did all those years ago. I don't forgive so easily.
What did you do to him?
It's what you're gonna do that's the real bitch. I suggest you run.
Which could happen since Will was pretty injured at this point, and Ghostface breaking back into his house and attacking Will, even without the element of surprise this time, I'm sure Ghostface would win. So she does what Ghostface says and runs as fast as she can, and in doing so she doesn't notice a tripwire, kicking it in the process and lowering farming equipment on Will's head. It's definitely not a bad kill. The gore for this kill is a lot more gruesome compared to the other kills before it, with Will's blood covering Emma, and the setup itself of having Emma be the one to hit the tripwire is nice. Emma thought if she played by his rules, did what he said, that she could save Will, but it was by playing Ghostface's game that she got him killed, leaving her to know that she played a part in his death, just like she did with Riley's. And while talking about playing the killer's game, let's move on to Sheriff Hudson's death, the final good death of the first season, who I was actually sad to see die. I enjoyed his character's dynamic as the dad to Kieran, but Hudson also made Emma's mom more interesting with his romance subplot with her. In episode 9 though, Sheriff Hudson finds a lead tracking him to the killer's house, where he finds a car he's never seen outside before, and a laptop with the blackmailing software inside the house, only to be attacked and kidnapped by Ghostface afterwards though. Ghostface then broadcasts a live stream of the sheriff injured and tied to a tree, while telling Emma that she and her mom better save him quick, because there's going to be some gut-wrenching reveals for the finale.
Let him go. Okay, this is about you and me.
Oh, I don't think so. Tonight's the big finale, Emma. Gotta make sure everybody's watching the horror show. People want to see blood, and I'm gonna give it to them.
I'm gonna find him. And then I'm gonna find you, you sick son of a bitch.
Then let's see what you've learned, Emma. Can you put all the pieces together in time to save him? Or will Daisy's heart be broken the way she broke Brandon's? It's up to you, but I can promise you one thing. It's gonna be gut-wrenching.
When Emma and her mom get to where the sheriff is at though, Hudson is barely alive, trying to tell them not to untie him from the tree, but in an act of desperation, Emma's mom rips off the duct tape surrounding Hudson's stomach in the tree, only to have Sheriff's guts and intestines spill into Emma's mom's hands. Emma's mom tries to save him, but Hudson dies almost instantly in her arms. It's a really gruesome scene and actually kinda sad.
Clark, it's Maggie. Untie him! Can you hear me? It's okay. We're here. We got you. It's okay. Okay.
No, I'm missing that.
Don't you worry. You're going to be taking me to a lot of dances. Give me those. Hold on. Right, I got you. It's okay. It's okay. Oh my God! Oh God! No! Oh no! Get help! Stay with me.
This is the most brutal kill, which is why I like it so much, but the fact that Ghostface Killer used the term gut-wrenching when talking to Emma just shows how much of a game this is to the killer, and how much fun Ghostface is having with all of this. Not only does logically this kill make sense because the sheriff was closing on his lead to the killer, but also because this is how the killer is getting payback on Emma's mom for breaking Brandon James' heart 20 years ago by killing the person she loves now, leaving an impact on both the Duval girls and a great way to intertwine these characters to confront their family demons together. Now, there is a lot about this show I like, maybe I can even say love, but one of the main issues I have with the show is the killer's reveal in episode 10. This show sets up a lot of red herrings too throughout the first season. They try to pull the everybody's a suspect card, and to my surprise, they do it pretty well. Even characters like Noah are set up in the first couple episodes when he's rubbing some type of red substance across his forehead, only for us to realize that it's spray paint. Then you have your prime suspects like Mr. Branson, Brooke's lover, who is found out to have changed his name from Mr. Palmer due to a previous relationship he had had with a student who was found murdered. Audrey, Noah's best friend, and the girl with emotional problems, who Nina and the rest of the kids had bullied and humiliated their whole lives. Jake, the aggressive wildcard who takes over Nina's blackmailing operation. Or Kieran, the new kid in town who seems to be involved in more than he should with meeting Nina. I'll let you take a guess who it is, okay? You think you got it? You think you know who the killer is? Your answer locked in? Final answer? Okay, Piper is the killer. Yeah, that's right, Piper is the killer.
Surprise.
Piper? I seriously wish that you could see your face right now.
Piper's death is even off screen, so it's supposed to be shocking when we see her reveal herself as the killer, and it turns out she's not only alive but also Ghostface, but it doesn't work, and it's because they try to play it off as she's dead. There are 2 other off-screen deaths in the whole first season, one in the first episode and one the last, like Piper's. The difference between those 2 off-screen kills and hers, though, is that we see the bodies afterwards. We see Tyler's head thrown in the hot tub and Wet Pool Boy's blood-drained body, but all we get for Piper is some blood on left-behind glasses.
Emma.
Oh my god. It's Piper.
I'm gonna throw up.
The original Scream nailed this with Billy's fake out death by actually having Sydney and us as the audience watch Billy be attacked by Ghostface firsthand. We believe that we just watched Billy die in front of us, so when Billy shows back up and shoots Jamie, your jaw is on the ground from shock.
Stu's flipped out. He's gone mad.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
No, Billy!
Anthony Perkins, psycho.
Now you might be asking yourself, why Piper out of everybody? Okay, we'll get this. They pulled a Scream 3 on us. Piper is Emma's long-lost sister and Emma's mom long-lost daughter. Which, to be fair, is set up in episode 7, and one of the only times we find out secret information with Emma is while she's in the bowling alley listening to a tape of her dad telling a psychiatrist that Emma's mom had slept with Brandon James one night after the dad cheated on Emma's mom in high school.
I keep having nightmares about the attack, about them, together. I can't get that image out of my head. Hiding in that bowling alley. I know I let her down. I know I hurt her. But how could she sleep with that monster?
Oh my god.
We then learn that she got pregnant from this one-time hookup and had a closed adoption arrangement, so Emma's mom actually never knew the sex of the baby. This is why Emma's father also leaves with the family while Emma is still young, and this impregnation is what caused Brandon James to be attacked and jumped by Emma's dad and his friends before Brandon snapped and went on his killing spree. But apparently Piper didn't like that her father, Brandon, was shot and killed by the police, and her own mother didn't want her and threw her up for adoption, to which then Emma came along and got the perfect life. So yes, Piper's motivations work and give her an actual reason to be upset with her estranged family, but it's just such a stupid reason. Scream 3 is known as the worst in the series for a reason, and a long-lost brother plot point is definitely one of the reasons why. And though to the show's credit, I believe they pull it off better here, but the actress who plays Piper makes this scene so hard to watch. She overacts like she's trying to be Matthew Lillard, but without the charm of his character that Stu had. Just listen to the way that Piper talks.
Hey, sis. Surprise.
Piper?
Hi, seriously wish that you could see your face right now. Hashtag mind blown.
Even the acting from Emma's mom has been weak throughout the show, and a prime example of that is the final confrontation between Piper and the Duval girls after Piper kidnaps Emma's mom and uses her to lure Emma into the pier where Brandon James was shot and killed on.
If you want to hurt someone, hurt me.
The 3 Duval girls fight though, with Emma and her mom being stabbed and almost defeated by Piper, but before Piper can reveal her final secret, she is shot in the chest by Audrey and tumbles off the pier and into the water, just like her father did 20 years ago. Audrey even gives off her own badass line.
I have one more surprise for you before I open you up, and you'll never see it coming.
Audrey! Oh my god. Audrey. Oh my god, thank you.
Bitch talks too much.
Mom!
But this is Emma's stories, not Audrey's, and we know the killer always comes back for at least one final jump scare, and when Piper does, she is blasted by Emma immediately, finally putting an end to the Lakewood slasher. We even get one more line from Noah about the traditional slasher formula and how they beat it.
You got your classic showdown at the lake, tying together the past and present.
And Survivor Girl in the back of an ambulance, just like somebody predicted.
Exactly. Except today, we're all sitting in the back of the ambulance together. Well, not literally, because then we wouldn't all fit, but you know what I mean.
I do. I'm just glad I saw Em run into the woods. I almost lost her.
You were a genuine crime-fighting hero tonight, bi-curious.
Right back at you, virgin.
I know it might have seemed like I was bashing the show more than I was giving it credit, but that's because it's always easier to point at the stuff you don't like. I did truly enjoy watching this season upon rewatching it, and there were some moronic choices throughout the first season which I don't give the show a pass for, like Neary Patterson's character as a whole or Piper being the killer. But other than that, the show actually tried on multiple levels from characters to plot to Ghostface's overarching plan, and I think it's more interesting and compelling story than the third movie, maybe even the second installment to the Scream franchise, with me falling in love with Emma Duvall's character just like I did with Sidney Prescott's character so many years ago. Though this is the end of the Lakewood slasher, it is only the end for now. We know that Piper had an accomplice. Sure that Will was the only one that kidnapped and they got attacked in the warehouse, but Will was alive and confirmed to other members of the group that somebody did attack him and Piper. The show wants the final suspect in your head to be Audrey, even showing us Audrey burning multiple letters between her and Piper Shaw before the show's credits hit, and I'm glad they set it up this way. It's a logical way to go when turning an hour-and-a-half slasher into a 10-episode series with 2 seasons to it. And if we would have found out both killers in episode 10 of the first season, it would have felt like Scream 2 in our hands for the second season, where one killer had motivation, the other killer would have just felt there. So yes, you're damn right, any fans of Scream or even teen shows should give MTV Scream the chance it deserves. As a Scream fan, I'm excited to watch the second season again. I forgot almost everything about it except who the killer is, but I do remember liking the second season so much more than the first, and I was genuinely shocked from how much I came to love the first season again. I hope the next season will have more kills sprinkled throughout like Sheriff Hudson's or Will's, so the deaths are a little more entertaining to watch, but I also hope to see the writers push characters like Jake and Brooke more so we can see how these events have changed them to be better people, and how these same events have made Emma so much stronger.